So how many e-commerce sites are running on Shopify? Uh,
Oh, millions, I think. Like,
Millions, is it?
oh, Shopify is far and away, I think, the largest back end resource for merchants. You can build a store and start selling stuff online, almost overnight. And so I would think some of the biggest websites in the world are running on Shopify. And specifically, like, you think of merchants like Kylie Cosmetics, which is owned by Kylie Kardashian, like Shopify store, right? Like
Right. Yeah.
all of these, you can look online and it's very easy to tell who's running on Shopify just by looking at the checkout process.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, like some of the biggest sites on the planet are running on Shopify. It's pretty cool.
Very
It's
cool.
amazing ecosystem.
Yeah. Well, we had a competitor to that start in Australia called Big Commerce, I think is the name of them. I think that they've
Yep.
still done very, very well, I believe.
They're big.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, there's a handful of them: Magento, Big Commerce, like all these kind of platforms that build for or enable merchants to sell digitally. Obviously the growth in that business in the last year. Talk about a tailwind of like, hey,
Hmm.
everybody's home and all they need to do now is shop, and you're not going to the mall. Like we've seen 10 years of growth in e-commerce in the last 12 months, and so and I think it's also allowed the problem that we solve for to massively scale,
Hmm.
right? So like the pain that merchants are feeling, think about this analogy. If you owned a bricks and mortar store, you would never let some person in a black trench coat come and stand beside your cash register and hand out discount coupons to everyone who comes through your door. Not only comes through your door, but actually is coming to your cash register to pay for their item. That's what Honey does. Honey sits on your computer as a consumer. And anytime you shop online, when you go to the checkout, when you're that far down the funnel, it will pop up and say, hey, Jeff, we got coupons. Do you want some? And you're like, I'd like to save money. Sure. Why not? And, it'll start injecting and take over the user experience. That's crazy. You would never, if you own bricks and mortar, allow someone to come in and do that. So why that's deemed acceptable on the internet is beyond me. And so again, you own your store. God, you should be able to control the code that's executing. It impacts your users. It impacts your revenue. It impacts your margins. It impacts your attribution of how you actually we got companies that have social media influencers that they work with, and they give an exclusive code to a social media influencer and say, hey, tell your 200,000 followers that if they use the code, Chad G 20 at checkout, they're going to get 20% off. Well, what Honey does is it scrapes all these codes out and it starts applying them because its goal is to get the biggest discount for the end user, all the while, misattributing sales to whomever it wants to. So it's created a really big conundrum for merchants. And we just think that, it's your site. You should own and control what's happening on it and protect your users and protect your margins and your revenue and everything.